Everybody ready? All right. Well, good evening, everybody. We will call the meeting to order. We're not doing a video, so roll call, please.
Kelly Morris.
Here.
Matt Ogden. Sean Lucas.
Here.
Aaron Peterson.
Here.
Darlene Graham. Zern Best.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I just want to remind staff, if at any point you are speaking, please use the microphones. We can hear you up here, but we need to have it for the streaming purposes as well. So, I'm ready if you are.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Before we get started, I just want to remind you that we are about a month earlier than we have typically done budget workshop in the past, and the reason being is we wanted council to be a little more involved on the front end. So if there's anything major that you want to make sure is in the budget, we are going to talk about that, and so that we have a little bit more time to get those things together. So that's why we're meeting a little bit earlier. But having said that, that means that we don't have some of the information to make this a, really robust document at this point. It's a work in progress, so just keep that in mind. We don't have a lot of estimates for some of the things, and so this is definitely a work in progress and a rough cut at this point, but we got to start somewhere. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Maybe. Oh. It's not working. Okay. You have on your desk the budget dashboard. This is kind of just how we lay it out. It makes it a little bit simpler to see how stuff is accounted for. We'll start with the revenue side. In that first column, and on your budget dashboard, the first row of accounts is the general fund in the blue. The middle section in the gray is the special revenue funds, and then the bottom section in the lighter blue is enterprise funds. And so I just thought we would kind of take each category at a time and sort of tell you where we've come up with these numbers. And you can obviously stop and ask any questions at any time. So the first column in the revenue section is grant revenue. So you can see there for in the governmental funds, which is the general fund and the street fund, we have a total of $2,059,999. Most of that coming from the street department with their street projects that they get reimbursed for. So if anybody has any questions about the grant revenue section, we'd be happy to entertain those. Okay, moving on. The next column is the tax revenue. So in the admin line, we have $7,137,487. So that includes real estate taxes. That's based on the pro forma that we got. We have sales taxes, and what we did for sales tax projection is we tried to project out what we think we'll get by the end of the year, and just kind of in a flat way till the end of the year, take that end of year number and raise it by 4%. That's how we came up with that number. That's a little bit aggressive, but you just never know what the end of the year is going to bring, right? At the time that we did that calculation, we were sitting 4.28% over last year. Excuse me, I shouldn't have eaten. And so, again, it's September. We can easily adjust that number down as a couple more months come in for data purposes. For the use tax has been doing very well. So what we did, again, projected it out to the end of the year, and then we took that number and added 20%, because we've been coming in the 30% range. So that's where we got that number. So those are the tax revenue figures, and then there's some little ones, cable franchise tax and gas tax and things like that, but that's how we came up with those numbers. On the police side, we have the new tax, we have the sales tax and the use tax for the police department. And what we did was took the general sales tax projection, and then it's the 3/4 cent instead of the 1%, and then we backed off 25%, because I'm not confident that we're going to get the full year's worth of revenue. It takes a while for that to sort of trickle in for retailers to understand that they need to charge it and things like that. So it's been my experience, when you enact a new sales tax, it takes a little bit of time for us to start seeing that full amount of revenue. So we can back that off a little bit more if you're more comfortable with that. Again, we just kind of took a stab at it, and so that's where we got the figures for the police. And then for street, again, same methodology for the sales tax. And then for their motor fuel taxes, I just kind of based it on sort of where we came in this year. That one's a little bit hard to project. And so for the motor fuel taxes, we just sort of do it based on where we're at this year and project it out. So with that, our total tax revenue is $12,713,518. Questions about that? And I mean, we're going to be throwing a lot of stuff at you, so you'll have time to mull this over and bring back questions at later dates. We have more budget time built in subsequent meetings, and so if you don't have anything now, that's fine. You can come back. Okay, the next column is sales fees and fines. In admin, we have $1,799,149. That's going to mostly encompass trash fees. That's what that is that we collect. The next one is police at $31,620. Then we have park at $1,150,635. After I get done with the whole list, then I'm going to hand it over to Matt, and he's going to talk about some fees, a new fee structure that he's planning. Planning development, $364,000. And then in the electric department, we have the sales revenue projected at $17,708,000. Water is $3,581,000. Wastewater at $3,850,700 for total revenue from sales fees and fines of $28,485,104. So with that, Drew, if we could get Matt's presentation up, he has a few things.
So after our council retreat there in April, where we had discussed some reductions in different things and ways that parks can do revenue, wanted to bring a few ideas or a few thoughts to you, just to kind of give you a glimpse as to what we could do. One, we can skip that one here. Program rates. So just looking at primarily our youth sports, our recreational programming. If we were to raise rates, here's what some of our area parks departments are charging. Branson is probably Branson and Ozark are the two that are most identical to us in the sense that they do individual registrations for the majority of their sports. If you look at Republic and Springfield, they are primarily team-only registrations, so people can come in with teams. They do a recruitment list or a free-for-all list, if you will, of kids that don't have a team associated and teams that are looking for a few extra players. But it is a hard assimilation to us. They do have a very few opportunities that are individual based. And so that's where you're seeing that 3750 to 4250. Springfield, again, is primarily team only. Those individual bases that they do, it's between that $50 and $60 range per participant. Willard, it does a little bit of both, and right around that $50 for everyone. But as I said, Branson and Ozark are the most identical. I'm going to hit the next slide here. Whoop, not that far. And here's where we're at. Currently, we are at 42 for members, 47 for residents, and 55 for non-residents. If we were to propose a $3 increase, it has been about 5 years since our last increase. So if we were to jump $3, we would jump from 45 for members, 50 for residents, and 58 for non-residents. Still keeps us in that ballpark. I'll bounce back so you can kind of see where those other departments are. It is very much still in the ballpark, is whether or not we want to do that. I will tell you that as far as things going up in those sports, we will see a little bit of an increase. We typically see somewhere in that 3 to 5% increase, usually closer to 3. That's what we budget off of and put out there as the total numbers for those participating in those sports. But we see the biggest increase in the minimum wage and what that does to all of our sport officials, scorekeepers, site monitors, and things along those lines, which will take the biggest chunk of the expenses to operate. Currently, most of our materials are holding steady and have over the last couple of years. So jerseys into the season awards, and then a little bit of our material costs in lining fields and that type. We are seeing some increase, as you might expect with inflation the way that it is. And so if we were to stay the same, it's completely okay. Just one of those that we will see a reduction in probably our overall revenue generation for each program, just based on those increases that we will see over the year. The next one, I wanted to give you a rundown of membership. If we were to look at raising membership fees, again, all of these were last adjusted in 2019, so it is that 5-year mark, and something that typically in that 4 to 5 year mark is where we have looked at increasing rates. A couple here, so Ozark and Springfield are a little bit more expensive, but keep in mind that they also offer indoor aquatics. So year-round aquatic usage with their memberships, something that we are unable to offer. Willard is cheaper, but just to note, their fitness center is about a quarter to half the size of ours. They are significantly smaller. It's a little bit smaller community. The other gyms that you see on that list is gyms in this area. And so anywhere from primarily that's 50 to 65 range, just depending on where you are and which gym you are going to. Some of these are going to be 24-hour facilities that are open all the time. Others are not. And so it just kind of depends. Republic and Branson do not operate their own fitness centers. Those are operated by Cox Hospital. And so Cox Medical does their fitness centers and just rents the space in their facilities. And then at the very bottom one is the X Center, or our fitness center, and where we are. I will tell you that membership is down some this year, as to be expected. It's an interesting correlation between the stock market and fitness center memberships. And when your stock market is not as high and not doing as well, your memberships will go down. It's the first thing they cut. When the stock market comes back up and starts holding in an upswing, memberships will tick up. And so it would very much be my recommendation that we do not raise membership rates. It just does not seem like the right time with things being down and the economy the way that it is. I would highly suggest staying at our current rates at least for another year, evaluating that as we go into 2025 and see where we're sitting. The programming side of things, that one can be up to you. But I wanted to make sure that we gave you kind of a good rundown as to where we're sitting so that you guys had an idea of what we could look at and what adjustments we could make if you wanted to.
Matt, on the programs, we have non-resident fees.
Correct.
It's currently 55, you're proposing to go to 58. What is the non-resident participation that we have in our programs?
It varies a lot depending on the program, but it's somewhere in the 10 to 15% of our
Okay.
participants.
And are we still
non-residents.
having capacity issues and are we at the point where we have to turn people away?
We have not yet.
Okay.
We changed up with those capacities. That's a great question. We have changed up and added the capacity limit to all of our registration forms and all of our advertising so that everyone knows that there is a limit. And we have not hit those yet. I will tell you, basketball is the first one that I am most fearful for. Gym facilities and our ability to have enough gym spaces is the big one, and most likely the first one that we will hit. All of our outdoor sports, we'll find ways, most likely to fill some spots there. But the indoor sports are going to be the hard one, and basketball will be that big one. That registration is currently still going on for this year, and so that will be the first one that we hit, and we'll know in the middle of October on where we'll hit.
And where I was going with this is that if we're looking that we're possibly going to have some capacity issues with resident and non-resident participants, if you're looking to raise that, I would even suggest go ahead and go into $60 for the non-resident.
Good.
And instead of just $3, make it a $5 increase. And that way it keeps them all kind of even as well.
Absolutely. You could certainly look at doing that. You guys have any particular direction you would like us to look at this point?
Use microphones. I agree with what Sean said. I think from what I know of the teams that come in from out of the area, that charge is minimal for how big of an impact it can have for our parks department. It's better than them going all the way north side Springfield or.
It is. The one that I struggles with is some of our departments or our cities to the south, especially the Spokane-Highlandville area, just doesn't have anything. And we've developed a decent relationship with them that they advertise our sports and bring their sport participation here with at least a large majority of their population, which is good for us. They provide a lot of times, especially with basketball and volleyball, the schools will let them in, and so they don't occupy a gym space with us except for games, which is great. It's good for them. It's unlike someone maybe coming from, say, Ozark or Springfield or something that does have a department in their community but chooses to participate with us. And so, it's hard to raise a rate on them, but we can.
Matt, can you go back to the page that shows your recommended increases? Other way.
Other way.
There you go. Thank you. Mayor, Council, we're just looking for a little bit of direction tonight. If Council would like for us to bring this back at a future meeting for approval, we'll definitely do that before the end of the year. But we just kind of need an idea for budget purposes on where Council's headed. Again, Matt's, recommendation is a $3 increase on all recreational sports programmings, mainly due to the increase in minimum wage. It's really starting to hit.
I'm just trying to keep that profit margin that we've seen over the last several years. Just trying to keep that in check.
I feel like that's affordable too. Zern, what do you think? I'm just gonna start calling you guys if you're not talking.
Not like being the new guy trying to remember all the information you gave me before. So we've seen a spreadsheet that kind of said which sports were making money and which are paying for themselves, and which ones were really, really close. So I believe we're in a spot, and I think everybody's rates are going up, like you said, on everything. We know that employee's going to cost, so we have to do something to keep it going. I agree with Sean a little bit. I don't think $60 is out of a stretch for a non-resident, and the other movement should be small enough that it wouldn't affect by pulling down. If you don't think it'll affect attendance, then or keep it where we want it to be at. If that's the goals, we've only got so much facility, so.
I mean, you go outside of a area like this, once you pay for a gym to rent for practices, once you pay for the league you're in, once you pay for uniforms. I mean, just uniforms on the team I coached were $100. And that didn't even count the tournaments and stuff like that. So it's still extremely affordable for kids that aren't sure that they want to play, whether it's basketball or volleyball. And it's not like they're investing thousands of dollars in something that they might not do.
Every department in our area does things so differently. It's kind of interesting. Ozark, you practice for basketball the 2 weeks leading up to the season. Once the season starts, you have no more practices unless you find your own spot. And there are ways to mitigate that, if that's a direction. I don't particularly like that direction. I don't think it's as good for the programming, in my opinion, but it's what they're doing to get their numbers through, I'm sure. And so there's a lot of ways of other mitigation if we want to. I'm trying to keep the integrity of the program to be of the highest that we can do, and I think we're doing all right.
I know nothing about kids' sports, nothing. So is the registration, is it a one-time fee or is it an every game registration?
No, it's a
Okay.
one-time fee. We do 6-game seasons.
Okay.
And so typically they'll have 2 practices before their first game, and then a game and a practice a week. Outdoor sports, it gets a little touchy with weather and things. You might get canceled on a practice this week just due to weather, that way. But typically most teams are seeing somewhere between that 6 and 8 practices and a 6-game season.
Is it per kid also, or is it?
It is
okay,
per
so
kid.
like a family who has 3 kids, pays 3 registration fees?
Yeah.
Correct, okay.
Correct.
Yeah, and so that covers the uniforms and everything. I know outside of Parks and Rec, my team was paying $40 an hour for a practice. And 2 practices a week, and that's one more than what you get, but even 1 practice a week, 6 practices, that really adds up. So this is extremely feasible when it comes to, especially if, your kid's not sure that that's what they want to do.
Right, and
And-
can't you start at like 3?
Oh, yeah.
Or like,
Pretty young. But that's herding kittens, but that's a different deal.
well,
Yeah,
I was like,
we start
mine's
everything
almost
at
2.
3.
I can't even imagine my almost 2 running, chasing a ball. Like, that's just,
It's the cutest thing you've ever seen.
it is.
It really
Kids
is.
soccer
It's
is so
pretty fun.
cute. It's just like they all go one way and they go
Yeah.
one way. But, okay, see, I know nothing about kids' sports, so.
So I guess the question is, does anyone not support this? Make it easier, so Matt knows which direction. I don't disagree with that. If the rest of council's okay, I would say 60 on non-resident and then support the $3 increase for members and residents.
Thank you. Membership-wise, stay the same?
I think personally, this is really loud tonight. I think so because right now we haven't added anything. There's nothing, we don't have the room to add anything. So eventually, yeah, we might have to. I like your idea of waiting till next year, taking a look at it.
When membership is moving and moving strong, that would be the time to make adjustments. It has been 5 years, so, to wait a lot longer, maybe not. But, people are used to seeing, 3 to 5 year increases over things. But I just don't know that it's the best market to do that in right now. I think it would be a lot smarter for us to wait if we're willing to kind of sit back. We will see minimum wage go up, which affects a lot of our part-timers in the fitness area, but I don't think it'll be so much that we couldn't absorb that, in my opinion.
Some of the things that I've heard as far as the membership-wise goes too is hours. Sometimes they're not as available for some people that use them, so they take their membership to a 24-hour place.
Sure.
And I'm not suggesting that we go 24 hours there. I'm just making that count as part of
Yeah.
where we might see a decline in the membership.
It's that evening It's that evening time. My dad goes in the morning and he's like, I don't have any issues getting on anything.
Sure.
No problem.
Sure.
But you go at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, I guess it's pretty.
And it's been a while since I've been up there and looked at the equipment or used the equipment. But the condition sometimes, I don't know where we're at with the condition of the equipment, how often we replace equipment, stuff like that.
Looks great now.
It looks great. Yeah, we were seeing
just
some wear and
don't-
tear on the pads and things. We'd had those ordered. It just unfortunately takes time. But all of that's been replaced. We've got one more that we're still waiting on for one piece. The equipment's operating really great. We've been replacing a couple treadmills a year just due to wear and tear, just trying to stay ahead of them. With everything being purchased all at the same time, treadmills, almost 10 grand. And so if we can do a couple at a time versus 10, that's way better for us.
Thank you.
And so things are operating really smooth. The flooring is going to be the biggest one that comes eventually. And we need to do something with that carpeting or something that way up there. But otherwise, the fitness center is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Drew, if you could put it back on my presentation, please. Okay, so that takes care of sales fees and fines of the park one will be increasing, but we'll again bring that back to you at our next budget discussion. I already did that one. Okay, so other, we have the list there. You can see there's nothing really that jumps out that is different than any other year on the other revenues. And then transfers in. I will say that we're not quite ready to talk about personnel. We've still got quite a few unknowns. And so what I did just for placeholding purposes was put personnel costs in as they are now and as now budgeted. And so that determines the admin fee, which is part of that transfer. And so that admin fee transferring out of electric, water, wastewater, and street and into admin, that will change as personnel numbers come in. So again, this is just a very rough cut here. But, so those are transfers in. Wait. Okay, so that's the total of the revenue. Any questions about anything that we've discussed as far as revenue goes before we head to expense? Okay. On the expense side, again, we're not going to talk about personnel tonight. We're just going to skip straight to operations. I've got all the operational costs listed out, and then I thought we would kind of look at a comparison of last year's budget to this year's so you can see kind of where the increases or decreases have come in. But for admin, the operation expense we have budgeted at this point is $1,865,765. And then you can see all the different departments. There's communications, finance, legal, economic development, HR, police, park, planning and development, and stormwater. That's all general fund. Then we have street, electric, water, and wastewater. I won't read off every single number, but the total of operations expense that's budgeted is $22,116,831. Moving on to our debt and lease numbers. For admin, we've got $287,800. That includes a debt service payment and also the lease. No, that's next on police. $668,947. That's their vehicle lease. Street, $66,212. Again, that's their vehicle lease. Same for electric. Water has some debt service and some vehicle lease. And wastewater is $152,200. That is one final payment on the very last of the bond issues in the wastewater department. So the total for the debt and lease line is $1,646,000. $686. Okay, here are the totals of the capital. We're going to break this down and talk about each project, but here are the totals of the capital lines. In admin, that number's going to change by a little bit. We took something out, but I already had this figured out, so. $1,009,667. Police is 1.1 million. Park at 3.7. Now, I will say, this is department head's wish list, so this doesn't mean this is what they're asking for, but this doesn't mean this is necessarily going to be what ends up in the budget. But planning and development is 150,000. Stormwater at 500,000. Street at 3.35 million. Electric at 11.69 million. Water at 2.1. Wastewater at 3.7 for a total capital expenditure budget of $27,464,032. And then we have the transfers out column. Again, that mostly encompasses central garage, utility billing, and admin fees, fee in lieu of fees for the enterprise funds. Okay, so the revenue over expense, that's that column where where all of the negative numbers are. This is the amount we have budgeted for revenue less our expense. So there you can see for the total budget, it's $19,868,256 in the hole. And this doesn't take into consideration our starting balances, but this is just money bringing in, less money going out. Okay, here's the comparison. So in the general fund, in operations, in 2023, we budgeted $3,271,809, and this year, this budget has $3,395,878. So that's an increase of 4%. Streets is a similar, or no, it's a decrease of 4%. Not quite sure what the decrease is. You got any ideas why it would decrease?
Most likely after Truman Boulevard being completed, that was a big chunk of last year's budget, so.
Well, that's operations, though.
That wasn't very loud.
Can you say that again? I didn't hear it.
The completion of Truman Boulevard in 2023 was probably a large piece of that. We won't have that expense in 2024, so.
Thank you.
Okay, electric looks like gets an increase of 2%. Water is a decrease of 43%, and I know what this is. It's because we didn't really know what we were budgeting for when we acquired RDE. We just kind of took a dart and hit it on the wall. And so we way overestimated what it was going to cost for some of those things. And so having a little bit of that history and knowing what to expect resulted in this decrease of 43% in that water fund budget. And in wastewater, again, a decrease of 6%. Okay, in general fund debt, this is an increase of 28%, and again, this is largely due to the police vehicle lease program. We've got budgeted in there to receive, Chief, how many vehicles are we supposed to get next year?
We have anticipated 9 vehicles
Yeah.
for next year.
So that's why that's an increase. And in street, again, we're on this rotation with this lease program. So. Electric fund, same thing. There's just all of that vehicle lease. In water, it's a decrease of 4%. Because our debt service for the one of our issues is less than it was. And in wastewater, it's a decrease of 60% because, again, we only have one more payment left on an issue for the wastewater department. So in our debt, we have the special obligation bonds, which is what we use to purchase the RDE system. And we have the police department, city hall expansion, public building corporation issue, and I believe that's it for our debt. Okay. Any questions about any of that other stuff? Operating debt or transfers out in the expense side? Any staff that have anything in your operational budget that you think is worth mentioning that's
And just as a reminder, these are very preliminary numbers, as Jennifer said. We still have a lot of cost estimates that are coming in or expenses that are coming in. We still haven't got all of our insurance costs on healthcare, work comp insurance, all those things are still outstanding. So that's why we're not quite ready to start diving into personnel necessarily at this point. There's still a lot of unknowns. I can tell you that our property insurance is estimated to increase significantly, so we have gone out for new bid, and we'll see where that comes out. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see. So just as a reminder, don't get stuck too much on the numbers on revenues and expenses quite yet, but we just wanted to give you a starting point for discussion.
And this may be something that other people don't need, but as new as I am, I appreciate that we're comparing it to last year's budget, but I know that we've had some things go over budget and some things go under. Is there a way to kind of have that number for us too, or maybe even 2022's number to see something like, I know that like 23's number's not hit yet, but it's just easier for me to.
The comparison is the budget as amended. So the comparison with 23 budget
Okay.
was 23's
Yeah.
amended budget.
So it
So
should- every time
Okay,
we
thank you.
voted to, yeah, it should be in there.
All right, thank you.
okay.
And then as
Show you.
well, this is an opportunity for the mayor and council as well. If there's any, Jennifer had opened up to staff, but it's open to council and the mayor as well. If there's anything on operation expenses or anything that you want us to think about or anything outside the norm, now's the time. You'll have more opportunities, but any direction on anything like that, if you can think of anything, now'd be the time.
Think about anything that your constituents have said they wanted to see.
And this is outside of capital. We're getting ready to go into capital, so it'd be line item expenses at this point.
I'll toss out just a couple of items. Before the end of this year, we'll be coming to you with a new water rate study. We're anticipating a slight increase. It'll be very small. Typically, we'll do those on 5-year intervals, and we'll break that up to like maybe 1% a year if it's that. So we'll be bringing, we're in the middle of that study now, so we'll be bringing that to you. We did increase the revenue estimate based on that a little bit. So that's in there. Some of the debt that Jennifer was talking about, like vehicle leases, a lot of that's dependent on if they show up. You know, we've got confirmation on some, finally going to build some trucks, and then they went on strike, so who knows where that's going to land. Some of that type of thing. So, but if there's other questions there, I do anticipate our energy cost to go up slightly, wholesale energy cost, although I don't see it being a big adjustment for our rate change. In other words, an adjustment adder. I don't see a large increase there. It may be less of a credit, but I doubt it will be anything large. It hasn't changed a lot this year, but next year's a different story. If natural gas and oil stays up, we could see some increase there.
I'll also add that I instruct staff to make sure they're rolling forward things that are in this year's budget that they don't think will be paid for in this year. And so a lot of times they'll roll them forward And we still have quite a bit of year left. So it's being accounted for because I'd rather budget too high than not enough. But, we may have to take some things out in the operational budgets that have a PO outstanding, or we've ordered it and we think it's going to come in November, but maybe not. We need to make sure we're accounting for that next year's budget. So again, this is a very working document at this point. Okay.
And sorry, Jennifer, and I'll just mention,
It's all right.
just for council, so you know, you have a budget and a line item. Last year you had 25,000 for this year. We've carried that same amount for next year. That covers everything from council workshops to events and you name it. So just so you know where your budget's at.
Okay, we're going to go over capital projects now. It's in alphabetical order, but in your sheet, it's in fund order. So the admin department is actually on page 3. No, I lied. Yes, no, I didn't lie. It's on page 3. And it starts out with the website and app. It's about halfway down your page. So the website and app and ERP system, those are 2 ongoing projects that I'm not sure on the app if we haven't made our final payment on that. We're still, Drew, do you know? Sorry.
I believe we're paid up on all the development of the website, first phase. The remainder there is what we had budgeted, unspent, and we're kind of a little under budget. Plus, we had budgeted $20,000 extra in case we need to develop integrations with the ERP system, but it turns out that BSNA is not as integratable as we had hoped, and so I don't anticipate spending much money, if any, on integrations with BSNA. I think we're going to be just linking out to BSNA's existing portals.
Okay.
So we may not have to spend much more of that money.
Okay.
What about the app?
So we could spend that money on an app if you wanted to pick a specific thing to build an app for. But what they talked to me about was that the mobile friendliness of our website is our app. And so what they're going to give to me once the whole thing's kind of working right is that they're going to give us, create like a link that we can give people to quote unquote download the app, but it's really just putting an icon on your phone that looks like an app, but it's really just a link to the mobile friendly website because the whole website's built to in fact, I think that in a lot of ways the website works better on your mobile phone than it does on the desktop. So they've done a good job of building it to be mobile friendly as long as I do my job to build the pages to work right.
Okay, so ERP system is ongoing. Okay, other than that, I'll turn it over to C.A. Lyles.
Mayor, council, just to kind of work down the list there, you'll see wayfinding signs. We're currently in the capital projects budget. That has been, we did cut that down to $0. We were planning on doing some wayfinding signs this year. One, we discovered that, quite honestly, that's not near enough money to do that. And also, there's a lot of regulations and such that we have to get through with MoDOT and sign specifications. So I've actually moved, excuse me, the wayfinding signs out a couple of years. So in the 5-year CIP plan, so you will see that come back in the 5-year plan. So I do not plan on doing that until 2025 is what we anticipate actually designing those. We're waiting on we have to do the design work and that kind of thing. And that number will go up significantly from 40,000, obviously. So, and then moving on down, the downtown design is still in Scott's, that's Scott's purview. And we have visited about that. We do hope that that will be completed by the end of the year. That's still our hope. And we're still trying to shoot for that. And if not, that will roll over. And then the city welcome sign. We have a number plugged in there. You see 150,000. That is a shot in the dark. Cindy is working on those numbers and getting some quotes right now. We're hearing anywhere from 100 to 200, depending on if you want a digital sign, no digital sign, all those other kind of things. So we just took a shot in the middle. So we're still working on that. So that number could potentially change if council elects to move forward with that. I know that's something that's been asked of staff to research a couple of times over the last few years. And just for those that do not know what we're talking about the welcome sign on 160. As you're traveling south into town on 160, you'll see the Welcome to Nixa sign on your right-hand side down by Bentwater. That sign is outdated. The LED screen we can't change it anymore. The chamber is actually in charge of changing that, but apparently the programming is no longer working. It's just the technology is done. And so we're looking at a new sign. We'll design something new. We're still working on a location as well. We're in talks with that landowner about that location, but we're also looking at others as well. So, but that's what that capital project is. Again, if council would like to keep that in there. And then the other one that you don't see up there that we are looking at for next year, we just don't have the numbers yet, again, but that's the City Hall remodel. So we will be coming back to council with that as we get through the budget process as well. We're still working on, the plan is still to get utility billing moved to City Hall next year. As part of that remodel for utility billing, we're going to bring a design to council in a future date on a remodel of the rest of a part of City Hall to open up some more office space, some more storage, better security for the employees, that kind of thing. So that'll be on our capital improvement projects for next year as well for consideration. We just don't have the numbers yet. The design is pretty much done, I think. Rather minor than maybe a few little tweaks, but it's pretty well done. And we're out for quotes right now, so on what that might cost. So I think that covers all of next year's CIPs. Any questions, feedback, comments, something you would like to see on the administrative side or something you would like us not to do?
Are we looking at getting that, if we decide to move forward, getting the welcome sign closer to the highway and not over in someone's?
I was actually visiting with Doug about that. I don't know what the chances of that are because it's a MoDOT issue, but.
Well, they let everybody else.
Whatever we decide to do, we'll need to see if we can get a permit on their right-of-way. It just, a lot of it's going to come down to what it looks like. If it's anything halfway the size of the one that's out there, I seriously doubt we're going to get a permit to put that on MoDOT's right-of-way. And also, anything above the ground's probably going to have to be built to breakaway for safety reasons. So it's just going to come down to that design, and then we'll ask.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far theirs is away from the highway. I don't recall.
It's not that far.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
I don't know
huge.
what Yeah, I'm not sure. We can look at it though.
Okay.
Yep.
Jennifer, on the ERP system, is that just expenses for the next year, or does that carry over from this year?
That's a lot of carryover from this year. We haven't paid the bill from this year yet.
Okay.
So I'm not ready to,
Okay,
so.
good.
How many other projects do we have right now that we don't believe will get done by the end of the year that we're going to be paying for next year?
You mean within administration or across the board?
Across the board?
That's a great question. There's several in the different funds.
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but quite a
You
few.
can get back to me on that.
Yeah, okay.
And most of those a lot of those we may cover as we go through these CIPs for each department
Okay.
tonight as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, got ahead. I'm good at that.
Okay. Police.
Joe.
The shooting range, this again is a rollover. We've got, I believe this is for the building, correct, Chief? The building on the shooting range?
This is for the training building, and I was down there today, and we have forms, so we have broken ground. We did run into some delays with that project and had to relocate the building to a different area of near the range. But I have been told that they're projecting a completion date of early November. And so this one will fall off if that occurs. If not, it'll be a rollover CIP, just so that we can honor our contract that we have with them.
Go ahead. Go ahead. They're writing stuff down.
Moving on to the next item up there, we have the patrol in-car camera systems. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where we had to address this with a capital improvement this year. I was informed by our existing vendor that we're approaching end of life with our systems and that they're no longer going to be selling those systems that we are using. And so it created a scenario where we were going to have to potentially look at either going to their newest system or shopping that out for something else. And we did a analysis of the existing system and then one other car camera company system. And it was, you'll see what we've done here is we kind of got a bundle price for 3 types of technology, which included the body cameras, the car cameras, and the tasers. That they all fall under one company called Axon. So that's the parent company. And so we looked at kind of a bundle situation. And the price that you see up there, not to be misleading, but that is actually, that's for a 5-year contract for camera as a service. And so what we're essentially doing is buying patrol car cameras for every one of our marked units, and that will be on a 5-year contract where they take care of everything. No, it's all warranted. If there's a problem, they're replacing or repairing it at no cost. We are seeing a lot of services in our sector go into as a service. And so nobody wants to just sell you something that you use for 10 or 12 or 15 years and then it's end of life. They want to get you onto a service where they're perpetuating, they're doing the perpetual costs. So if you divide that essentially by 5, our next year cost would be somewhere in the neighborhood of like, I believe it was like $50,000, $58,000. So, but it's important not to put that number in there for you because that would be a little misleading because we're actually obligating $263,000 over 5 years. So that's kind of the direction we're going. And again, we were kind of forced into this one. We weren't prepared or hadn't anticipated having to do in-car cameras. We thought we were good, but these are all this stuff is integrated again, and so it also ties into our evidence management system. So all of our electronic evidence is also housed in the same software, so to speak, as our car camera videos. And so it really touches a lot of different things for us. Then moving on to the body cameras, that was actually on the 5-year CIP for next year. So it was due up. Again, we looked at the same company because they do body cameras as well as car cameras. Again, that's a 5-year cost you're seeing there, and so you would just essentially take that number, divide by 5, that would be your yearly or annual cost over that 5-year period. Body cameras are one of those things that we've talked about over the years for many, many years. There has not been a lot of appetite by the public essentially to push us to those things. I'm certainly not opposed to body cameras, and I think they can be very beneficial. All of our officers, they all agree that they would certainly benefit from wearing them. If anything, it's going to be more helpful to the officer in making cases and proving what did and didn't occur. So body cameras, again, are one of those things that we had on the list, and so we felt like it was important to get it in there. And then the third and final thing you'll see up there is tasers. And this was another scenario where we were kind of pushed into a corner, so to speak, and it became a number that had to be addressed with a capital improvement. As you know, all the officers, the line level staff or the patrol staff carry tasers as a less than lethal option. It's one of the primary less than lethal options that we have outside of an ASP or mace. So it's our third less than lethal option. The problem with taser is they are the only game in town, and so they set the prices. I can buy a pistol for $500 or $600, and I can buy a taser for anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000. So when you start looking at individual units costing that much, they control the market, they control the price, and it's one of those things that I feel very strongly that we need to provide for the officers, even at this exorbitant cost that they have us buy. Again, 5-year projected cost up there, divide it by 5, and so you'll get your annual cost again. But didn't want to be misleading about the annual cost and wanted to give you the 5-year projection. Taser as a service does include virtual reality training, which is new for them. It also includes training cartridges, and then all warranty, everything is warranted and serviceable by the company. So we don't have to pay any bench fees or repair fees if we have one that gets broken or damaged. And so from that perspective, it is a good deal, I guess, because we've sent them in to be repaired, and they've come back stamped non-usable or non-serviceable, and then the liability becomes ours if we attempt to use that in the field. And so they have a lot of control over their product and in that way, and so as a service kind of makes sense with these as well. I know I've kind of buzzed through all of that, but if you have any questions on any particular thing, I'd be able to answer those.
So the tasers, for example, at the end of 5 years, is it you have to buy all new, or can you extend the warranty? Like, what's the lifespan on these? I guess it's whatever they want to do, since they...
Yeah, so interestingly enough, the best way to get people for someone to buy your product is put an expiration date on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've essentially been seeing that for about 5-10 years now. They say a taser lasts 5 years and you're done. So they won't back them, they won't warranty them after 5 years. So the idea is that every 5 years you're going to be entering into some type of new contract with them for the newest, greatest, or next generation, and you'll be going through this all over again. It's a perpetual cost.
Gotcha.
So what I understand, you're just saying that the cost that we're seeing up there is not what we're going to pay next year. That's going to be a fifth of that is what we're going to pay next year. Is that correct?
Yeah, essentially,
Correct.
you would,
Okay.
our next year cost would be, it would be a 1 year.
So would it be safe to say that in theory, we're kind of leasing these products then over the next 5 years?
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
at the end of
that's
that 5-year
one-
period, we're going to get all new again?
Yes, that's one way to look at it. It's essentially like it's as a service or a lease agreement.
And is there anything like through the co-op that we've done? I know we've done some stuff recently through some co-op on one of the departments. I'm not sure there's nothing for the police department on that, is there?
So we can buy off of somebody else's contract, but they're usually giving us the best price.
Okay.
So, and the other thing I probably should have mentioned is that they do, the more these things we bundle together, there's more of a discount. Of course, they're trying as a selling point, But as far as like getting the best pricing on that, their quotes typically are, they're not, unless you're buying probably 5,000 tasers, you might get a better price. But, usually you can find some contracted price to go off of.
And I think one of the questions I'd had a few years ago about body cameras was we talked about the warehousing of the data. Has that changed?
Yeah, so there's been some development in that. So it used to be that you had the organization would be responsible for having these standalone type servers where you would store this massive amount of data. You'd have terabytes and terabytes of blades. And because there is now a cloud solution, that's become a lot more affordable. They're doing cloud hosting, and then so all this data is being stored by them. They're using Azure, I believe, is what their protocol is for security, and so they're responsible for a lot of that. And,
Awesome.
And again, I would remind you that if we moved to a different system. We're talking about moving all of our digital evidence and every piece of video evidence that we have into this system as well. So it'd be a kind of a evidence management system to kind of go along with this in-car body camera system.
And that copy there covers the cost of transferring all that data and just paying for the storage of that data?
Yeah.
Cool.
Is this a set number, like 100 tasers or 50 tasers or?
Yeah, so to be exact, on the in-car cameras, that's 19 cars that we would have. I think actually might be 20. And then there's enough tasers for all of the line level staff, which would be all the uniformed officers. And I'd have to look here to get you the exact number, but body cameras, I think, we would be up to, I think we had 42 for that particular number. And then on the, excuse me, it's a rather long document, so pardon me. I think it was 34 or 32 tasers.
So if we were to hire additional officers or add to our fleet as far as vehicles, would we have to purchase more? Could we purchase more through this at the same rate, or how does that work?
Yeah, so if we have to add equipment and/or officers, we would just there's a unit price that we can agree to, and we could bring those in as well. So you can add, it's expandable.
So that's a purchase, but then does the warranty and coverage, does that add to that yearly? Like, how is that done? When you purchase
it'd
it,
be
does
like
it
a-
automatically add that into your price?
It would be like a rolling cycle, so you would
Okay.
have, if we had to add 5, those 5 particular tasers they would go for another 5 years before they're ready, so to speak. Or they would prorate it, I'm assuming, if we were going to be within that contract, or that 5-year period, so.
And then whenever, say you fire your taser and then you drop it and it breaks or whatever and you have to send it off, what do they have one to give you during that time, or do we need to buy extras so that way
No.
you have one on?
No, that's actually a good question. They actually provide us with a new unit, and they just take the unit. So our downtime is minimal for that.
You don't wait for the new one to come
Yeah,
back?
we
in,
don't
it's
have
just
to.
there?
We don't have to have any on the shelf, so to speak. That's
Oh, okay.
part of the service,
Perfect.
We found that to be actually, it's interesting. We have a few firearms dealers that we deal with that will also do that for us. That's not very common, but it is nice to know that if you have a particular piece of equipment go out of service into evidence, for example, or it's damaged or anything, that we're getting that replaced immediately, and there's no downtime. Unfortunately, with police cars, the technology in them sometimes will be the deciding factor of whether it's in service or out of service. So you can have a car with a working engine, wheels, and and things like that, but if the radio's down or the computer system doesn't work, or some of all these accessories that they're carrying, like in-car cameras and things, it puts the car out of service. And so when we have an opportunity to have a quick turnaround because we're on a service, or we get that immediate response from the company, that's helpful in keeping things up and running.
I will say to council, on a side note, I'm always very careful on contracts that are longer than my term. So this is a little bit different because this being for the officers, they're going to use it, and I don't think it's a bad decision. But keep that in mind anytime that we're doing longer term contracts, is if it doesn't work out, you're creating a problem for somebody else. Granted, you'll be out of office and it won't matter, but just, keep that in mind. This one doesn't fall into that category for me, but just for future reference, like, I don't know, trash, things like that.
Anything else?
Thank you, Chief.
Next, we have Parks.
Again?
All right, so we've got a few in here. The trail extension at Macaulay Park, we did that this year, and we'll continue. It is a impact fee, is what we're using to pay for that. And so just to kind of have that idea, the impact fees can be used for anything that is new. And so if it's a renovation or a kind of a change or a redo, you can't, but for new, we can. And so we started that this year, and this is just a continuation of continuing those trails around Macaulay Park. The Oaf Park development is on the north parcel. If you'll recall, in 2022, we completed the initial look and design phase of that park on what that park could look like. And so now it's time to start. And this will get us kind of that initial run into getting started with it. It wouldn't add a whole lot out there as we get started with, hopefully maybe a small parking lot and maybe some on-surface trails and moving through in hopes to continue to work towards a complete build-out. So if you look at that one over the next 5 years, you'll start seeing $1 million investments towards that property and that park. If we go that direction. The community center front desk upgrade, our front desk area, our entry area has not been upgraded since the building opened in 2024, it'll be 22 years ago. And so the desk area and that type of thing is very outdated, very worn. It's just time to do some upgrades technologically in that area, as well as just the countertops and the entry area there. We are using the building in a completely different fashion than what we did whenever we opened it. Having our own fitness center and things like that in the building, it was always designed for that, but someone else was using or renting the space upstairs. And so just being able to redesign that to make it more user-friendly and for both staff and the public as they come in. Dog park restrooms is something that we looked into a few years ago. There's significant infrastructure needs to do that as far as electrical, water, and wastewater to the park site. And then we were looking at using a prefabbed concrete style, pre-engineered restroom facility. If this is a direction that we go, we will be having to use all of those resources to get to the site to be able to have a bathroom on site, if that is something we desire to have. And then the skate park is one that has been in our budget runs for years. We continue to push that one, but it has resurfaced back into the 5-year plan being in 2024. $500,000 will certainly build us an above ground skate park. It would not be a bowl style cutout park, but one that could be above ground with ramps and rails and things. The biggest discussion would be the location and where we would want to put that. Obviously, right now, it would be either Macaulay Park or Rotary Park. My suggestion would be Rotary Park. In the area that they are currently skating, they can just move up the road a little ways.
Did you look at, like, maybe an estimate on the skate park that I sent you pictures of in Ash Grove?
We have not gotten an estimate in that direction, no,
Okay.
but we could certainly look at that. We also went to the one in Lebanon and looked at that, so we could do it cheaper if we wanted to.
I feel like that's one of those things that would be a good start. It was actually neat. I'll show you guys a picture, but the things that they skate on actually look like parts of a skateboard, just bigger versions of it. And so, like the trucks that are flipped upside down, and that's they can slide on those different rails. And it was just a smaller. I mean, the area was honestly probably a little bit bigger than this square right here.
Mm-hmm.
But it was being used. They were having fun.
Yeah.
And start smaller and then add on to it.
The skate park committee still, I believe, still exists. They kind of
Yes.
come and go
Well, now we have
a little bit in that way.
We actually have a skate shop in Nixa now.
That we do.
So I know that there's
we do. It morphed a little bit over the years from being skateboard and skateboard only to skateboard and scooter. Then it was skateboard, scooter, and BMX. And so it's kind of taken a whole gamut of things in which you don't necessarily want to intermix all of them together. But if we did do something, it might be something that we could look at doing. That's why the price tag goes up as you continue to do that. But within a reasonable amount of money, we could adjust the rate. If you're saying $500,000 too much and we have a couple 100,000, I'm sure we could work with something that could either be expanded upon over time or would give us a good start in that direction.
And then before you get going into the whole pool thing, the dog park restroom, not sure if you're aware, there's actually a Facebook group for the dog park.
I'm not aware of that.
I actually think it might have been started by our former mayor,
Oh, okay.
Mayor Steele. And so I'm curious as to, I see their post and everything. I'm curious as to what they think. Like, are they there long enough to need a restroom?
The average
Because-
visit is probably in the 30 to 60 minute range.
I think $130,000. I know it's an estimate, but what more could we add to that dog park that would be useful for the actual dogs as opposed to?
Correct. And we do have in our operational budget some more amenities and things for the dog park than what's there. The stuff that is there was done with an Eagle Scout project in early 2022. It's showing weather and age already as it was designed and built by an Eagle Scout. However, it's been great. The people love it, but getting some more dog-friendly things out there is something that we did put into the operational budget for '24.
Okay. And then the front desk upgrades. What are you thinking? And the reason I ask is, are you thinking for like what seems like it would work for right now, or are you thinking even long term?
If we went more long-term, we would have to really design that out and really look at that. It would be interesting to adjust a lot of things to where the entry wouldn't be straight into the building, would actually enter into the cafe area and come around. This price tag would not do that. This would get us, this price tag was what I felt was more affordable for us at this point.
Just new Formica on the table.
And it would probably definitely serve our needs for the next 5 to 10 or more. But it's time for some upgrades. It's just time to catch up with the times. And, computers, and as we get into having kiosks and things like that, being able to, someone to be able to come in and self-serve to some extent or and go through our digital program book and things like that. The technology exists. There's just no way to do it at our current front desk.
Okay.
You mentioned Rotary Park for the skate park. Where were you thinking at Rotary Park?
The idea would be to take out the sand volleyball court and the small playground that is there, leave the basketball court, and put it in that general area. Now, before sand volleyball comes after me there, we could move sand volleyball to just about anywhere.
Yep.
Not in Rotary. Obviously, Rotary Park is very full. But we could bring it over to the community center. It would not be hard to, dig out a spot and make a spot, put some sand in it, volleyball posts up, and have volleyball at the community center somewhere. The small playground where it does get used, we would lose the playground.
I think there's some other options there, but it all depends on some other conversations that are being had. I also feel like we need more basketball courts. Outdoor basketball courts
And so if you look at the Xeriscape Gardens or something like that, if you're going in that direction, that was put in with a grant. We would have to petition the state to either let us out of that particular grant or figure out how we could mitigate that just a little bit if we wanted to use that space for something other than gardens.
The good thing about skate park at Rotary is that's where everyone already skates at Price Cutter.
And so they're in the Price Cutter to.
So if they can make it there, they can make it over.
The Old Bridge Church, they're in that corridor, so this would just put them down the street. It is the closest and easiest for them to get to. If we jump over to Splash Pad, it's just one of those needs that the communities continue to ask for, and so trying to put monies in there, again, we would have to figure out where we wanted to locate that and work with that process. And then the pool leak, that's the fun one, right? We are working to get a contract that I hope to bring to you at your next council meeting for the engineering and design of that project. We need to have that engineered, as I mentioned in that council meeting. So once they get done, This would be that anticipated costs with all the upgrades that we would hope to do. Extending the pool deck, adding more shade, possibly a drop slide. This would be all of that hopefully lumped into that 2 million. But it is I'm gonna guess that our repair is gonna be in the $1 million to $1.5 million range. And this would just be the additional funds to try to complete some of those other projects or some of those other things to spruce up our pool, bring it up to standards these days, if you will, as far as excitement and enjoyment for the community, and give us another 20-plus years of use for the community in our pool as it exists. Other questions or ideas for me?
I know it's further out. What kind of upgrades are you looking for or looking at for Rotary?
For Rotary, yeah, it's further out. The ball field upgrades, we would love to turf the infields, have grass outfields, turf infields. This way, rainouts are nearly non-existent. You do rain out if you have lightning and storms, heavy storms in the area at the time of games. But an afternoon storm that blows through and dumps a little bit of rain doesn't kill the day. It also gets us full usage then anytime and all the time. You don't have to chalk and line fields anymore. There is a little bit of maintenance that you do to the turf itself, but the maintenance needs change. So they don't go away, they just change. Daily stuff gets a lot simpler. It's the long-term needs. You're going to get 12 to 15 years out of turf before the turf needs to be changed. And so, not that you see the full expense at that time of change, it's roughly half to a little more. And so there is some. You're putting yourself on a clock for further, but we could most likely develop an account to help us afford that over years instead of all at one time. And so that would definitely bring up the fields. We would probably change up configuration just a little bit and design a little bit and shorten up field A at that time. And so kind of reconfigure the guts of the middle of where our ball fields are. This could open you up for tournaments and stuff too.
Yep.
A lot better than what we currently sit.
And there's nothing that prohibits us from kind of accepting private donations for naming rights on fields.
No,
like
nothing at all.
Matt Krause Consulting Company's logos on the turf, and he's got it for
Absolutely.
10, 15 years.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh. Thank you, Mr. Kraus.
Mayor, Council, with the discussion on turf, would you like for Matt to research cost for that infield turf? Or do you want to just hold off on that?
Honestly, I think what I would like to see, and this doesn't have to be done right now before into budget, because I know you guys have a lot of things going on. I would like to see a solid marketing plan going towards private donors. What that may look like. With that being said, you'll probably need to get an estimate on what a turf field would cost, so we know what kind of investments we're looking at receiving.
Yeah, the last time the pricing that I'm using is 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
As far as that, it's my understanding that we're still in that ballpark. Sorry, no play on words there. But I can update those costs and make sure that we're still in that ballpark range.
Okay. And then feel free, utilize me.
Okay.
I'll come in and help you guys come up. I mean, I can do the artwork. I can help with about all of that.
Okay.
So I'd love
Great.
to.
I've got a couple connections on the ball field or on turfing and things like that.
Okay.
So
I'd like to at
absolutely.
least, I mean, if we're looking at a couple of years from now wanting to do this, we could spend the next year, 2 years, working towards ways to not have to pay for it.
Cool, we can do it.
Won't hurt.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, we have two more projects in the general fund. One in the planning and development department, which is a rollover, and one in the stormwater department, which is an ongoing phased project. So who wants to speak about the comprehensive plan?
We have started the comprehensive plan, so we just received our first invoice on it. They gave us a year timeline, so hopefully this time next year we'll be adopting a comprehensive plan. Remarks complete.
Thank you.
Mayor and council, the Cherry Street project, the $500,000 request would be for 2024 to get north of Cherry Street. This is a multiple phase project. This would be actually phase number 3 of that project. Looking for up to possibly 6 phases to get all the way up to North Street. Depending on bid costs from year to year.
Perfect.
So that brings the total of the capital requests in the general fund to $6,510,328. Actually, it's $6,510,332. Actually, it's 40,000 less than that. Sorry, we took that other one out.
You good?
Can you tell I've been working on this budget for nonstop?
Deep breath. Deep breath.
Mayor, Council, before we move on, any further discussion on the CIP projects we talked about so far, before we move on to the enterprise funds? Obviously, it's a very large amount. It's still early, so that amount honestly can't stay that high, but we'll work through that and we'll make some decisions. But, so we're just looking for any feedback you might have.
What was our contract with the Oaf Park development as far as the timeline? Did they give a timeline on when they wanted something done?
We said we would get started soon.
Okay.
And to date,
I like that.
To date, they're aware of where we are. They have been supportive of knowing that we would need to design it, knowing that we would need to work through those processes. Everything has been good. It would be nice to be able to show some progress physically on the property, on which we just haven't been able to afford yet. But, again, it's about affordability.
Yeah. I don't think there's nothing in the agreement that I'm aware of that something has to be done soon, but they have been very patient with us.
That is correct.
And we work this direction, so.
And I don't want to come off as I'm not appreciative that they donated that land to us, but looking at what we need to do closer before we start sending people out of the city, me personally, I'm going to struggle with that one.
They're aware
For
of
the
that.
next year.
They're also aware that we don't have a direct funding source and for the Parks Department, if you will, and so that they knew it would take time.
Could you also come back with a cost as far as like Mayor Giddens was proposing it for the community center front desk upgrades, what it would cost if we were to do the entire project like you outlined?
I guess we can. Well, we need some professional fees for that project.
I was gonna say, do we have anything left over on any of the others that we could utilize?
I don't know, we'd have to look, if anything, professional fees, but professional services. Jennifer can look, but absent that, we would have to come back with some type of budget amendment, because that would take some professional design and
Yeah,
and
or,
cost
or,
estimates.
or professional fees to put into the operational budget for '24.
Are there any other parks in the area that you've seen that you like their front desk and would be interested in replicating what they have?
There are a few. The biggest one, it is so easy to enter our building and go any which direction you want without actually having to walk past a person. You kind of do with them standing there, but there's no real cut off to it.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to get people to walk right past it, where they either have to check in or they have to stop to say hi or to conduct their business, pay their day pass and things. When it's busy at the front, or a basketball Saturday when people are running in and out, it's pretty easy to flow into the building, around the corner, get up to the fitness center, and staff not necessarily see you or have to leave the desk and go chase you down because you didn't check in. And so we'd love to try to eliminate some of that and kind of choke things down, if you will, just a little bit to make it a little easier for staff to keep track of who's in and out of the building.
Would it be possible, without taking too much space upstairs, since there's really no workout equipment downstairs, to make the front desk downstairs more of an informational area, and upstairs is where you actually scan in, check in, and you can't get past that until, I mean, like, you literally have to scan
Yeah,
your badge
you could.
right there before going in?
You could. It would take more staffing to do that, because you would need the downstairs informational staff to do that type of thing, and maybe do registrations and things like that, and then more upstairs staff to maintain the fitness center. You could do that. The technology exists up there. We just haven't implored that one. And so we would need more front desk staffing, part-time staffing to do that.
What if it was just a door with a scanner?
A door?
Scan the barcode and the door opens.
Oh, I don't know that that would necessarily work, considering that you'd be coming into the building for any number of things.
Upstairs, though.
Upstairs?
Not a door, but like, you know,
Gate.
like
or-
a gate,
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look at that one.
like like what they have at
Turnstile.
subways and
Right,
stuff.
right, turnstile or subway
Yeah.
gate, yeah, I'd have to look at something like that. That's not one that we'd really thought about, so I'd have to put some thought to that one.
Just a thought.
Yeah, I'll write that one down.
Mr. Peterson, also, if it's something that council would like to consider doing a much larger remodel of that front area, again, I haven't talked to Matt about this, but I would suggest we do the design next year and look at that larger remodel maybe the year after. Then we could
Yeah.
budget for the design next year, because quite honestly, we have a lot of large projects coming up
Yep.
within the next year, and
That's-
I don't want to get too many of those large projects going at one time.
Yeah.
So I would recommend maybe we design it next year and do a larger remodel the following year. If Matt would be comfortable going another year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would think, based off the questions that have already been asked and looking at other options for what can be done there, I would say let's put some design into next year.
And Matt, you're,
Sorry, we hadn't put a whole lot of thought into that complete redesign. We just didn't think that that was something that we could feasibly afford at this point. So having some time to really put pen to paper and work with somebody on that would be amazing.
Yeah, this kind of goes into my thinking past your term. Like, I don't want to create something that's going to be a problem in 6 years.
Correct.
Maybe a solution that'll go 20
Yeah.
or more. Good call. Yeah. I want a splash pad. Let's take about a 10-minute break real quick. Everyone's been in here an hour and a half. Food's settling.
I'm good.
All right, I will call the meeting back to order.
Okay, we're
Okay.
ready. The next is the street department. Take it away, Mr. Russell.
Thank you. Let's see here. The small dump truck with a snowplow, that dump truck is to replace 54 dump truck that we have that is currently about 6 to 7 years old. The next The next dump truck, the 183,000, that dump truck is one that we initially were to purchase in 2023, and due to shortages, it won't be here until 2024. The Salter is also something that we were going to purchase in 2023. Unfortunately, with the trucks not being available, that would have to be wired to one of the new trucks, so we weren't able to purchase that. The line painter, the $22,000, that would replace a machine that is close to 20 years old. It has been here longer than I have been here. It's starting to leak and have a lot of issues. North Street improvements, that's one that's been going on for a couple of years. It's been under design. The $50,000 will just be the remainder of that design. I believe that project total was around 597,000, somewhere in there for the total design of that project, but that is one that we will receive 80% funds back through Federal Highway. Main Street Tracker to CC, that is one that's currently under design. It is our plan to let that in conjunction with MoDOT's project of the intersection of CC and Main, where they will do all of the work on it. That is scheduled to start construction in, I believe, May. See, Main Street, North Street to 14, that will be a design project. Again, that project, as well as Main Street Tracker to CC, will be eligible for the 80% reimbursement. And then the Cheyenne Road multi-use path is one that Mr. Lyles has asked us to look into. That one, we're currently going through the RFQ process for engineering. We will have a program agreement with MoDOT for the next council meeting to present to you for that, and we will move forward with that project. Perfect. It is also an 80% reimbursement project.
So are both the dump trucks on order this year, but then rolled over to next year? Is that right?
The dump truck for 183,000 is a rollover. The one for 160,000 is just a replacement.
Thank you. Main Street, North Street to 14, is that right there at the three-way stop? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you did catch that that's design.
Yep.
Design only, yes, correct.
Yeah.
The 350 is design only?
Yeah, the only projects that we have slated for 2024 construction will be the Main Tracker to CC and the Cheyenne multi-use path.
Will that design actually include the intersection of Main and North?
Yes.
Or is it, okay.
And on the Cheyenne, can you tell how far is that, like, where is it going to sit exactly? Like from North Street to the schools or North Street to 14 or?
Yeah, it will travel north from the Cheyenne Valley subdivision across the street, across North Street, and then go westward to Cheyenne and then north to Summit Elementary. It'll be a 10-foot wide multi-use path. And I apologize, I said the construction would be for the 2024. That is actually for the engineering portion of it. Construction will be in late '24, early '25.
Okay, so that's for engineering.
So for some of you who are newer, the Cheyenne multi-use path, that started with a lot of concerns south of North Street because the buses from High Point and Summit do not run in those neighborhoods. And those kids also don't have a way to walk to school. So that's how that one was brought up. Here, I'll show you.
Eventually, the Cheyenne multi-use path will tie in with the improvements on North Street, tying everything in all the way down to Main Street with connectivity for pedestrians.
A lot of people that'll be happy with that one.
That'd be one I'd recommend trying to push sooner than later, if at all possible.
Yeah, we're under negotiations right now with Federal Highway and MoDOT for those 80% reimbursement funds. We're following their process. They have a very tight timeline. Any of these projects that you have federal funds involved in, it's a 2 to 3 year process just to get through the paperwork. So, yeah, they've held us to a very tight timeline on that one, and we'll do everything we can to meet that.
Thank you.
Jimmy, I have a question. Crosswalks, like we've done in the past for like the one there in Aldersgate and something like that, is that through the street department as well? Okay. Aaron and I received an email from a resident that's wanting us to look at one right there at North Street as you go across to the X Center. In that area, right in that area. So I'm gonna go look at the area and I'll bring some stuff back to you.
I know which one you're talking about.
So
So we'll say the one, you're talking about the one right by Walmart, the lighted one?
yeah, a crosswalk like that.
Okay.
Yes. But
That
there-
one was a cost share with were the apartments involved in that too? Walmart,
Yeah,
the apartments and us?
Yeah.
So that actually brings up a whole nother discussion that I was wanting to look at is, Springfield I know they got grants to do this. Most people don't know that you have to stop if someone is even close to a crosswalk. And not just one that's at an intersection, but, there's one on Old Castle, kind of by going into our neighborhood, and people stand there and wait, and cars just blow by them. And I do know that we have at least one officer that has been pulling people over lately for that and educating them on that. I think there might be something that we can do. I don't know if we can do as much as what Springfield's been doing, but education and maybe more signage at a lot of these.
I think signage and paint on the road, both would be.
There's not a crosswalk per se there right now, and he's asking if I want to put in. On the one that I'm talking about, it's over on North Street to go to the X Center.
It's kinda
If
just
it's
west of
across the
median.
street from the center, there's no sidewalk on the other side of the street.
That's what I need to go look at. I said I have.
Okay,
I need to go look at the area that he's talking about and see
Yeah.
what.
I wonder if he's referring to the one that's west of the X Center.
No, it's probably the one across the street, and there isn't a connecting sidewalk, so that's why there wouldn't be a crosswalk there.
Yeah, if they go down a little ways, there is a sign. But again, that's another one of those that people can stand there and wait and cars will not stop. And then people are afraid to stop because they're afraid they're going to get rear-ended.
Right.
I think education is going to be a huge piece of that, and maybe better signage and painting on the roads. I know it has helped over on Jericho.
Mhm.
There was one that we had discussed, and people were they were parking and blocking the crosswalk. And coincidentally, the day that I pulled up Google Maps to show Doug, there was a vehicle blocking the crosswalk. So that the signage that we put up there has helped a lot. They don't block it anymore, and people actually watch. But I do think paint on the ground, and also just the education piece of things. Most people don't realize, because I got a call after someone got pulled over.
Yeah.
And they were like, there was people standing there, but he's like, I didn't know if they were going to cross or not.
We did a little bit of a promotional thing with Drew here a couple of years ago, where we kind of threw out a social media blast on some of that. We can visit with him about maybe doing that again periodically, which might help. I know one of the other things they have in Springfield is a kind of a chartreuse silhouette of a man, or a kid standing there And, maybe that's something we could look at, maybe getting something in that and moving it around to different locations. We have a lot of areas, like you say, where, anywhere that we've got a couple of handicap ramps across the street and there's sidewalks, it's a crosswalk, whether it's painted or not, it's a crosswalk.
Yep.
So, some of that education, we can certainly look at some things to maybe help promote that as well.
Yeah. And I'd be interested, this actually, Chief, if you maybe could find out what grant they got, because I know they got a grant they had one officer that would walk up to the crosswalk, and then another officer in a patrol vehicle down a little ways, and the person didn't stop. They radioed down, and they weren't issuing tickets right then, but they were pulling people over and telling them. And it didn't take long for that to hit social media, and word got out. And I think people don't want to get a ticket. So I'd be curious if some grant like that's available. I figure it's similar to like, the sobriety checkpoints, stuff like grants like that, but.
Yeah, I'll inquire and find out what exactly they did for funding on that particular project.
Because it's still going. I read an article the other day about it. I would rather just, if we can see what we can do to address it now before something happens and we have to. But yeah, I'm curious. I'll have to look at that one you're talking about. Because I wonder if it's right.
Didn't mean to take a derail in there. Just wanted to ask about that.
Because it's past that. I drive by it like daily. I drive by it daily. It's right there. Oh, it's a Hillcrest.
Like in this area, right past the median.
Yeah, this is the one I was thinking.
Yeah, that's the one that's there. This guy was talking about a crosswalk over here.
Oh, down here?
Yeah.
It's on Hot Towers.
Well, legally, they should walk down here. I don't know, we can look at it.
Yeah.
Sorry, squirrel.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, moving on to the electric department.
Where are we at?
The front page of your little packet.
Thank you.
Front page, you said? Okay.
Ready? Sorry. The metal building, we got a cement pad at 1010. We have wire and transformers in there now. We're wanting to cover that up like a lean-to. So that's that for, because got wooden wires, reels. They don't last very long and they rot. Then it's a burger to try to get the wire off of them and all that. The forestry bucket is actually replacing two vehicles. We have a small bucket truck now that's 10, 12 years old, and we also have a chipper truck. And the forestry bucket will replace both of them. It's a bucket truck that's got a bed on it, and we just shoot the chippers in it, so that one bucket will replace two vehicles. The service bucket truck, that one is a carryover. Where's that new? Sorry. No, that's a new one. On some of these, we put service trucks, two-man bucket trucks, auger trucks in here because the lead times are 5 to 7 years out on a new bucket truck or auger truck. And some of them are so far out that we just guessed on the price. They wouldn't even give us a quote on them. They're that far out. So unfortunately, we're putting this in to replace a new one, so to speak. They're that far out. Same thing for the digger truck and the two-man bucket. This small bucket truck is a carryover. Hopefully, we ordered it 2 years ago. Last we talked, hopefully it'd be in April or August? In August of next year. So hopefully that will happen. The other two-man bucket, again, we
ordered it last year, and they told us 5 to 7 years out. And hopefully the price don't go up, which you know it will. The grapple for the skid steer, that's for our tree guys cutting trees. Like I know Jeff and us, we rented some during this last storm. It just makes things easier. We don't have to drag the brush and everything. You just pick it up and throw it in the dump truck. The pole call for the skid steer, that's new. What that's for is when we get in backyards, it will pick up up to a 45-foot Class 1 pole, pick it up, turn it, set it in the hole. Makes things a lot easier than trying to get a digger truck in some backyards that are very difficult to get to. You have to tear down trees and, or not trees, fences and stuff like that. The backyard machine with the material handler, we have one right now. However, the same thing, it does not have a material handler. Our trucks are getting bigger, and obviously as you can't get one through a small gate or anything. This you can get through a small walk-through gate, and with the material handler we can change out a transformer, which is obviously with the bucket truck or backyard machine would be a lot faster and number one, safer. I think that's all on our equipment. Going to projects, the underground three-phase to Oakmont lift station. Obviously, that's to get power to the Oakmont lift station, the new one for Jason. The underground three-phase extension along Truman. We have overhead so far as we can go. And then we're going to go underground down to the well or the dog park. And that'll give us a tie to help alleviate some load issues down in the south part of town. The substation addition, it's a big number. However, that number's big. It's too, again, like regular distribution transformers. Substation transformers are 3, 5, 7 years out. This price will give us into the production line. However, the big thing is doing a study. Do we really need one? When? Do we build a new one? And where? Or do we just add another substation transformer, an existing substation? And our engineer said, whatever we decide, and if we don't need a substation and within 3 to 5 years, we can always pull that out and don't have to get one. West Highway 14 lighting, that's been in there last couple, 3 years. It's still, we got some design done on it. This is my bad. I've been telling them that's no big rush. I haven't had any calls on how bad or, how come it's not lit up. So I've been telling the engineers to hold off on that and go to something I feel is more important. The Leanne and Nicholas tie line is a carryover. We got going out for bids on it and another project here in a couple weeks. That is going out obviously west of town, which they'll give us a tie. There is no back feed in that area. Plus, we're going with bigger wire, guessing that once the lift station comes in, the growth will happen out there. AMI replacement, again, that's a carryover. We had it several years. Be nice to have, but it's very expensive. This portion is only to get things started, get an RFP going and stuff like that. Tracker to Cheyenne, that's a carryover. Again, that's part of what we're going out for bid. We are hoping that this one will be done this year if the bids come out good and we get started. South Truman, it's obviously going down South Truman. That is like 90% done. We're waiting on wire. Again, lead times are terrible. Hopefully the wire will get in here. I doubt it. This last time was March, I think, of next year before it come in. So that's the reason we're carrying that over. That's mainly for wire and a few little other material items. And North Main Circuit, that's for the widening of North Main up to CC. We're going to extend our three-phase up there. And I do believe that's with street lighting is involved with that too.
So with all these tie lines and stuff, I mean, are these all in the process or all just getting ready to get started?
2 or 3 of them, we got started, designs there, we're waiting on material. And then the only one that we got that's new is the South Truman. Am I right there, Chris? No? Oh, yeah. Truman, South Truman, down to the new lift station. And North Main, isn't it? Well, no, you're right, that's a carryover.
So after you guys get the design built, do you order all the material at that time because of lead times?
Yeah, that's correct.
Correct.
We, at your last meeting, you approved to go out for bids on the Leanne to Nicholas and the Tracker to Cheyenne. And so, once we get those bids, I mean, we may have some materials, but some of that's depending on wire, obviously.
And then on the trucks, is Altech the only place you look at, or do you look at other places?
We looked at other places, they're all, the only one we haven't looked at is, where is that new one? I don't even know, I've heard of it. Waynesville had one when they was down. No, wasn't Durlift, anyway, we looked at Telec, maybe it was Durlift, whatever. We looked at like 3 of them, they're all saying anywhere from 3 to 7 years.
Okay. You work with Neil?
Yes.
Altech? Yeah. So is all those trucks ordered, like you're making orders for those now because of the lead time? And you're just trying to spread them out? Because I know, I mean, if you order them all now, you're gonna get them all in 7 years. You don't want that. So how are you working that out with Neil and everything?
Yeah, we're looking with Neil. We're trying to, it's, obviously we're in a pickle. Do we hold off and order them 3 or 4 years from now when they're due, when we feel they're due?
Right.
And now they're still 5 to 7 years out. Will they last that long? But Neil said we could stick them the same way, kind of like on our transformer in line and try to split them out. So hopefully they don't all come in
Right.
at the same time we
So
order them.
you're basically saying you want the 2 buckets first and then the digger truck
digger
and then
truck,
whatever. So they spread out 3 or 4 years apart.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because we got, 2 on order now? And they're-
Which ones are on order now?
And this one here,
Yeah. The small bucket for 215 is hopefully this summer, fall. And then the 2-man bucket for 390, we ordered it last year, and that's, we don't know when that'll show up.
These other ones are all just ones that we don't order. That'll be ordered in 24.
Can we put in the system, ordered? I mean, that way, when we go forward, 3 years from now, when we might be getting the small bucket in a month, the council at that time isn't like, nah, we don't need it anymore. That way it's,
We can add some details in the notes. Sure.
that way it doesn't have to get approved every year, even though it's already
Yeah, it'd be
on
nice
order.
to see when it's like the order in 22 or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah,
It'd be awesome.
we can do that.
Perfect, thank you.
Indicate what it was carrying over and all this stuff.
You good?
Okay, yeah.
Water. Mr. Stutzman.
This is fun.
On the water side, the replacement truck, we ordered it back in 21, 22, and then GM pulled the order on it. So we're back to square one trying to find a truck. So it's definitely a carryover. The SCADA system, we're in the process right now with Olson of getting the quote and the proposal ready. Probably going to put it out to bid at the end of the year. Is that right, Travis? End of October. So the Tuscany well generator, that's a carryover. We've just not had time to really. I've talked to a few vendors on it and the Ashley Drive generator for RDE and Tuscany, and we're still kind of waiting on some numbers to see what size generators and stuff we're going to need for them wells. Water tower number 9, that's just the design of it right there. That will replace the ground storage tanks out there at Ashley Drive on RDE. AMI metering, kind of like Brian, that one's just a holdover. North Main to Highway CC, that'll be a new water line when Jeff builds his new road from Tracker to CC. It'll be a tie-in loop up there where we can tie in RDE to our system. The Walnut Creek Loop, it's kind of a holdover. We're trying to get some easements and stuff with that. The design is done, but we're working on easements to get through that. And then the bulk water station, we're in the process of getting that one started. It's just, that one's been kind of put on the back burner.
How much use are we having at the current bulk water station?
We have really done well with that. Since we have put that out, we have probably sold 50 to 75,000 gallons out of it. It has really alleviated us trying to keep track of them bulk water meters that we were handing out, and it's been a good deal. It really has. We've had a few complaints that it feels slow, but it's accurate, and we're going to try to upgrade this one just a little better than we did the first one, but it was kind of a prototype, so if the second one works out with what we've got figured out, then we may go back and retrofit the first one just a little bit to help it out.
Did you say the Ashley Drive generator is the same as the Tuscany? It's a carryover?
Yes, both of them are carryovers. When we bought the systems last year, neither one of them had generators on the wells. So when the power goes out, which unfortunately it's not our power, just like the other day, the generator at Ashley, or the well at Ashley, the power company ran out of power, or didn't run out of power. They had storm damage and there was no power to the generator or to the well. The little well at Meadow Ridge, which is on a different electric company, could not keep up with the RDE system, and we were running out of water, basically. Finally, the electric company come and got Ashley back online, and everything was fine after that. We haven't really started tying Ashley we really haven't started tying RDE into Nixa yet because of the different zones. RDE is a little higher than Nixa, and we will be blowing the top out of the standpipe and stuff till we're going to have to put some pressure reducing zones in before we can ever really start making some major tie-ins to RDE off our system. Same with Tuscany. Everything's on a different plane out there for some reason, so it's just the way of the land and the landscape of it.
So let's talk the SCADA system for a second. with this new, now is it an upgrade or replacing the software? It's upgrade?
Both.
Well, for the new
It's a
people who don't know what
replacement.
SCADA is.
Can you give us for new people, can you give us a rundown of exactly what the SCADA system does?
This will allow us to control the wells on the system from home. It will report back to us what's going on with the wells, how much it's pumping, if power loss or alarms for the chlorine, if the chlorine pumps are down, it'll alarm us where we have to come in. It's basically kind of like what Brian's got on his electrical system. When something goes down, it'll immediately send out an alarm to whoever's carrying the phone at the time, and it's just quicker response time for us to get there and try to get things fixed, and it'll also keep us in information on what's going on. If we've got a pump that's lagging over the weekend, and it happens to fail, then we can call in the pump company, come and get it fixed, and it's just more of an informational thing than it is.
So do you feel comfortable that the upgrade of this is going to alleviate any of the current issues that we've had as far as coming in at, 3 o'clock in the morning and finding out that water
It
tower's
will
overflowing?
it'll eliminate us coming in and finding, like the customers that already calling us saying, we have no water, we have no water. As soon as the pump does not kick on, or the booster pumps out there does not kick on, it will immediately alarm us what's going on, and then maybe we can get in there before and get things fixed before stuff like.
And on the other side, it'll let us know if we've got one pumping over.
Yes, that's where I was
not
going with
shutting
that.
down. I knew where you were going with that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, the AMI and the SCADA both for electric and water. I would love to see that being pushed a little harder than what it's been. It seemed like I've heard since I've been here a year now, it's been there, but yet we're not doing anything or just sitting there.
Expensive.
It is expensive, but it will save time, outages, and it'll be less headache actually for everybody that's in the utility side once it's installed. Also with the AMI, it's going to you can read your meters from the computer. There's no more necessarily, if you buy the disconnect meters for water or electric, if you don't pay your bill, you can disconnect it from the computer versus sending a guy out. There's a lot of pros to these systems, so I would love to push that as much as possible as well, because once again, it's going to save your guys a lot of headache as well. Plus, you can see everything from home.
Yeah.
So-
I think it'll be huge for the citizens as well, because that will be able to tie into the website and actually give you real-time updates on power outages, where they're at, and, and not in our guys too.
And it's our guys, the same thing.
Easier to find it, but everyone wants to know who doesn't have power.
Right. Nixa neighbors to tell you.
Sure will. All right, thank you. I
All
guess
right,
there was any
moving
other
on to
questions.
wastewater, we're coming in for a landing.
Okay.
This is Jason as well.
On the wastewater side, the new sludge truck, that's the wrong number. I've either put it in wrong or something. It should be $300,000 for the sludge
I
truck.
was like, buy two.
Yeah. That's to replace the original sludge truck when the new plant came on in 2003. That truck has nickeled and dimed us to death this year. It's been horrible. It's been up there at International more than it's been on the road, so it's time to replace it. The new bioxide pumping system for Bluebird, we've just replaced the bioxide tanks, but this is the second part of that little project, the new pumps, which that pumps bioxide into the sewer system to keep the odor down and the complaints. That's basically all. It's pretty much like spraying Lysol in the sewer system is what it's doing.
And that is 50,000, right?
50,000,
Okay.
correct.
Just want to make sure.
That one's good. The rest of them, them are good. UV system for Tuscany for 50,000. That is to replace the one that's in the current treatment plant down there to keep us in compliance with DNR. We have 3 bulbs running right now in the one that we have, and we're just barely meeting numbers with it. So it's kind of a necessity that that one gets through. Generator at Timber Creek Lift Station and the generator at Bentwater, both of them are the original generators when them lift stations was put in the late 90s. We've been having trouble with the one at Timber Creek, can't keep it running half the time. And the one at Bentwater is just old and it just needs to be replaced. It's on natural gas and we're trying to get away from it. We're going to put it on diesel like we do the rest of them. So one less bill for us to have to pay. And it's just a pain to keep it. It keeps blowing the freeze plugs out of it and we're losing antifreeze all the time. And it's a maintenance nightmare is what it is. The clarifier lining, that is a carryover from last year. When we sent the bids out for that, we had decided to paint the rotating assembly down there inside the clarifier. Well, as everything else in the world has gone, the paint has gone up. The painting come in at about 70,000 more than what we originally budgeted for. So we have upped it to 625,000 instead of 650, 55 or 56, or 550, I'm sorry. Yeah, 550 from last year. That's part of the wastewater treatment plant where we're upgrading it. The plant's over 20 years old now, and we're trying to get ahead of the curve before it really starts nickel and diming us to death on some stuff. The Tuscany wastewater generator, that's for the treatment plant down there at Tuscany. It doesn't have a generator either. The sludge holding basin, that's at the Nixa wastewater treatment plant. That is the design. We are running out of room to hold basically biosolids down there. The old plant, when they designed the plant is designed to handle 4 million gallons a day, but the original sludge holding tanks was already down there when we done that project in 2023. And when we started that, the plant was running about little under or a little over 750,000. Now we're up to 1.5 million a day, and we just do not have the capacity to hold the sludge during rain events where we can't get on the fields and spread or run it through the centrifuge. So that will be the design for that, and then in 2025 will be the construction of the new sludge holding basin. And it should take care of all our needs up to the 4 million gallon mark at the wastewater treatment plant. And of course, then the Southwest Regional Lift Station, that's the new Oakmont lift station. We're in design. Design is just about done. Travis is getting all the easements and stuff. Hopefully we'll let that out to bid sometime next year, and that'll probably be in the 2026 time or 2025 time it's completed. So.
How are the easements going with that?
Actually going really good. We're in our initial phase of our easement acquisition, which is from the old lift station at Oakmont down to the new site. There are several people, and that was kind of our phase one that we identified, one to get the site for the new lift station, and then the easements necessary to get it back to the old Oakmont lift station. We're very nearing completion of our negotiations on the actual physical location of the lift station. They're comfortable with where we want to place it, and we're just kind of going through the monetary negotiations now on that one. So the big hurdle was to get that property owner comfortable with where we would actually site the lift station, and that was the key to the lock because sewer is a design flow system. You have to have that location before you can really zero in on exactly where all the sewer lines will be, and once that property is obtained, it locks into place the easements that are necessary to make that system work. So we concentrated on that property owner. We've had great luck with them. They've been wonderful to work with, and we're moving upstream from there and working with the subsequent property owners. And like I said, things are going well. We've got all our appraisals. We've been presenting appraisals to them and just working through the monetary value
questions.
Thank you.
Are the UV systems, are they all back ordered and stuff too, like everything else? If we're pushing,
No, this is new for this year. We thought we could get the old system up and going through parts and stuff, but it's just old and outdated, and the UV bulbs are basically, you just can't hardly get them anymore for this system, is what we should, I've talked to my lead operator down there at the plant. Once we get this approved, we can get it ordered. We should have it before April of next year. We only have to run the UV systems from April till September, October, whenever it's full body contact at the lakes. In the wintertime, we don't have to run the UV systems, so.
okay.
That's it. That's all the projects. The next time we get together to discuss the budget, hopefully we'll have a little bit more direction and get some more numbers in, so we can kind of see where the dust is settling. I will draw your attention on the budget dashboard. What you're wanting to maybe look at is sort of that ending balance of unrestricted funds. We obviously need that to be in the positive. And so if there's going to have to be any cuts, we're going to have to work towards getting that number in the positive. And then wherever you're comfortable with that ending balance being. So those are some things to keep in mind. I did put a percentage of the general fund that's being used by each department within the general fund. Mr. Lyles had asked me to sort of do a little bit of an analysis there. So based on this budget, of course, it's negative. So you can kind of see where each department, how much of the, because most all of the revenue comes in through the admin department, because that's where all the taxes are. So you can kind of see there that breakdown. But this is just a good start for us to sort of be thinking about what staff has put forward as priorities and sort of where we're headed in the capital direction, and reach out to, us or me, or if you have any questions or you want something to be seen or discussed at the next budget talk that we have. But other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or anybody else from staff have any other parting shots of wisdom.
You all right?
Mayor, Council, as Jennifer mentioned, the percentage at the end, that's something that I asked her to put down. We're going to be talking more about that in the future, particularly with the police department. Now that they have a sales tax that's going to help generate revenue, we need to talk about what council is comfortable with that percentage being coming from our general fund as a transfer. So we're going to be running some scenarios with a couple of some different percentages. I believe we're going to be working on that. So that's just a conversation we're going to have in the future. So be thinking about that, what you're comfortable with on that transfer amount being, because obviously we do have a lot of big projects that we're going to have to, the new police department, we're going to have to pay for with that sales tax and additional officers, which we'll talk about when we get to personnel. But we also need to look at how much money we're transferring, because we can't keep going negative over time.
Yep.
So we just need to have a percentage that we're comfortable with, that we can kind of work with from year to year. So we'll talk more about that, but just wanted to kind of plant a seed.
Yeah, and to kind of give you an idea where my mind is, that 112 is pretty high. And I know over the past 2 years, COVID obviously didn't help, but with the cost of everything continuing to increase and the amount of budget amendments that we've had to do to get projects done, and I mean, it's hard to say we need to run more lean, because we've been running lean for probably well before most of us had any thought about being on city council. But I'm trying to figure out ways that we can work to build up the reserves some, because I know we have had to use a lot of those over the past couple of years for various reasons. So I am kind of curious as to what it would look like to try to get that 112 down to something that's a little easier to swallow. I mean, maybe the 96 to 98%, and then see what we can add back in, if anything. Because also, I mean, we're going to get into personnel, and we have the salary survey that there's a lot involved in that, and getting us right where we need to be to where we can continue to have all the great employees we have. I wouldn't want to, losing an employee to the private sector doesn't bother me as bad as losing an employee to another municipality. And that concerns me a lot. Big projects are great and everything, and stuff that we need to do, but personnel is what keeps this whole city running. And so I'd be definitely thinking about those things, because whenever we get to personnel, I know a lot of you probably have a glazed over look right now, and you're going to go home and think, what in the world did I just go through? But wait till we get to personnel. I mean, because that's the part that really, really, to me, matters, because we have some of the best people and we want to keep them. And, if that means we have to cut some things and look at doing things at a later date, then I'm all on board for that. But yeah, the 112.
Yep, again, we'll work on that number down, but of course, it's still preliminary. We still have a lot of cost and revenues coming in, but,
Yeah.
so that'll definitely change.
Thank you. And everyone in this room, thank you. I know most people probably didn't like my new budget schedule. I know a lot of people are probably numb at this point, and their head hurts and their eyes hurt, but thank you for everything you've done to bring this to us and get it together. I know it's just a start, but I think we definitely have the right people in the room to figure this out and do what's right for the city. So, thank you.
I'll just point out that the next time we have on our calendar to discuss is at the October 10th regularly scheduled council meeting, but we have an early start. If we start at 6 o'clock, we'll use that first hour just to kind of go over, where we are. And so we've tried not to schedule any extra meetings. It's just we're going to try to get it in on the front end of our regularly scheduled meetings. So the next time we will be bringing you anything with this particular budget will be October 10th at 6 p.m.
Perfect. And that does not mean you have to wait until that date to ask questions.
Yeah, please don't.
So if you have anything, myself, Jimmy, Jennifer, Cindy, anybody, reach out and ask the questions and get as much information as you can, because it's not small. Anything else from staff? Anything else from council?
If we look over this and see some areas that we're like, hey, maybe our thoughts on what we should say, let's hold off on, do we email those to you, to Jimmy, to Jennifer, or how do we go about conveying those thoughts?
You can send anything to me.
Okay, how would you guys want those sent?
And I mean, because I'm going to be in a lot of conversations with them over the next couple weeks, so feel free to send them to me, and then I'll let you know is the second that we discuss it. I won't hold on to it, don't worry. I check my email every minute, so. And if it's something you want to be involved in the conversation, let me know. And we can come in and meet. Anything else from council? Thank you all again. Meeting adjourned.